Some of you may know I'm a little bit of a sports fan. My poor wife endures. And right now we are in the middle of not one but two playoff seasons. The NBA and the NHL are both in playoffs. And I got real excited at the beginning because my Pittsburgh Penguins were all set to have a real good run to win the Eastern Division and go to the Stanley Cup. My Dallas Stars looked excellent to do the same thing in the Western Division, and I had dreams of my two favorite hockey teams playing each other for the Stanley Cup. In the meantime, the only basketball team that matters, the San Antonio Spurs, were rocking on, set to have a great series against Golden State. I wasn't sure if they could beat Golden State, but it was going to be a great series. My father-in-law and I discussed this more than once. We set plans to sit together and watch Golden State, San Antonio go at it in round 3. Now, I may be the only one that knows what's going on, so I'll let y'all know. The Dallas Stars laid down in round 2 and got spanked by the St. Louis Blues. Was not supposed to happen. It should have at least been close, but they shouldn't have lost that game for anything. They got killed. Last game was 6-1, which in hockey is unheard of. I mean, it's just like they forgot how to skate. And then, like blink an eye, very shortly thereafter, the San Antonio Spurs lost to Oklahoma City. Oklahoma City. This is not a possibility. If you made a bet on the San Antonio Spurs in that game against the Oklahoma City Thunder that they lost, it would only pay 30 cents on a dollar. You had to risk $1 to get 30 cents because everyone was so sure San Antonio was going to win. But they didn't. They got killed. It was horrible. Now that's silly and it's just a game and it doesn't matter. But sometimes it just doesn't happen the way it's supposed to happen to us. And I'm sure the disciples felt that way, only way more so because it was far more important than a playoff game. When the man they had been following around for 3 years and had been convinced was their champion, their Messiah, was arrested, beaten, crucified, and put in a cold hole in the ground. He had lost. They had lost. That wasn't supposed to happen. Not in their eyes, not in their mind. How is that even possible? We believe he is the Son of God, the King of Kings, the Lord of Lords. How is he dead? Now we can look at the disciples and go, I empathize, but I see the rest of the story. I know what happened, so if you had just seen the little clues, if you had listened to the words he said, you would have believed that he was going to rise again. He flat out said that was what was going to happen, right? If they had just listened, they wouldn't have been nearly as upset. But we do the exact same thing. Over and over and over and over again as we get an expectation in our mind of what this life is supposed to look like and feel like and what it's going to mean to be a Christian. What kind of victories we're going to have, what kind of defeats we're not going to have, what's going to be allowed into our life and what is not going to be allowed into our life, and this is it. We've got our champion. It's set. It's a done deal. I don't know why we're even playing this game. And then setback comes. The enemy gets in. We get kicked in the teeth. We get knocked down. And we go, wait a minute. This isn't supposed to happen. How is this happening? And we start, is our champion really our champion? And the answer is yes, he is. There's a story, I don't know if it's based anywhere remotely in truth or fact. It makes a good tale though. That when the railroad was being built to cross the United States, the Comanche Indians, who were excellent horsemen, did not want to give up their land. They didn't like what was happening, and they decided that the easiest way to stop the spread of what some people were calling progress across their hunting grounds was to defeat the railroad. And a young brave, to prove superiority, picked his best horse to race the steam engine train. From a dead stop, they marked off the distance. They signaled to go, and the horse took off and left the train sitting there. As the engineer and his helpers threw wood to the fire, and steam began to build, and the train slowly began to move. And people unaware of the truth about the train thought the race was over before it even began. Here comes this horse. He's running hard and fast and showing no signs of tiring. But slowly but surely, the train began to pick up speed as the flames grew. The steam built up and the power went through that steel engine. And it got faster and faster. Then they were running neck and neck. And then the horse was behind. And the train ran off and left the horse like it was not even running anymore. And people were shocked and people were surprised, except for those folks who really understood the engine, understood what was happening. See, the truth of the matter is, because of the distance of the race was over as soon as the fires began to burn in the train. Way back at the start, it was over. The horse never stood a chance. And sometimes we look at temporal things and go, how is this happening? How did we lose this fight? How did this war get lost? How is the game over? We're looking at it wrong. Because the truth is, it's not over. But it's already been won. Jesus going to the cross and dying and coming back and leaving so that the Spirit could come and the fires could burn and the engines could run. From the world's standpoint, that don't understand the locomotive of heaven, the horse is way out in front. Death is way out in front. Chaos is way out in front. Fear is way out in front. Everything evil and wrong is way out in front. But as soon as the fires began to burn, that race was done. It's over. No chance. The Spirit came that we would be able to harness that power, not on our strength, on His, so that we could be in the winning side. And these little situations we find ourselves in are not the end of the game. They're not the end of the match. They're not even the end of the battle. It's not even intermission. No matter what's coming up against us, it may look like the enemy has run off and left us. We've been whipped. We're not getting the healing we wanted. We didn't get the protection we thought we should have. Things were allowed in. You're already healed. Nothing can stop the process anymore. From glory to glory, every evil, every defect, every scar, every wound will be made whole and renewed. It's over. But we like to sit down sometimes before the engine's going good and look out and see how far the enemy seems to be ahead of us and say, oh, I thought the train was faster. I thought the train was stronger. Oh, when the horse is out in front, it's not the time to quit. It's not the time to give up in despair. It's just time to let the fire burn. Jesus came to pay the penalty, to do the weirdest thing that a king would do, die like a criminal, so that we could become the children of King. And that's what we need to remember. Because the disciples were wrong when they thought the cross was the end. The cross was the beginning. The cross was the victory, not the defeat. And no matter what's going on in our lives, those times when it feels like the end, it still really ended with the cross. It still really ended with the resurrection. And what we need to do is acknowledge that and surrender ourselves to the truth of what happened on the cross, what happened when the stone rolled away, and open ourselves up in submission to the Spirit that Jesus left so that we could have as our comfort, and the unquenchable fire can fall in our lives and let us walk victoriously through whatever's going on. Now, we like to think that that means blind eyes see, crutches fall away, bank accounts get full. That's not always what victorious means. Sometimes it's hard. We don't understand. As a matter of fact, some people get so afraid or hurt because they expect the miracle and the miracle doesn't happen that they begin to just say, you know what, those were apostolic times and it's over. That kind of thing just doesn't happen anymore. That was a period of time that took place before the Bible to give testimony to the power of God because we didn't have the Word. Oh, He's the same today, yesterday, and forever. He raised people from the dead long before Christ came. Dry bones danced. He raised people from the dead as Jesus walked the earth. And He's raising people from the dead today. Physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, in every aspect. Sometimes the healing comes. And sometimes we get to walk through the storm, on the water, with the wind raging. But we can endure and go through everything that comes victoriously in Him as long as we continue to walk towards Him and keep our eyes on Him, because He won the race at the cross.